For those of you who just joined us, coming 20 of you, thank you for coming. This is a little pet project that I'm running, which is the first digital dollar project. Basically, what I'm doing is from January until June, I'll invite 20 individual solopreneurs and then get them to share their journey towards earning their first digital dollar. So the first digital dollar here is not cryptocurrency; it is actual selling of digital products and services. All right. So today, I have a very special guest with me, Veronica. So, um, some interesting fact is when I first joined Substack, uh, I followed 4 person, subscribed to 4 person. So she's one of them. So she's someone who I will follow and subscribe to since the very first day of Substack. So she's a Substack bestseller, of course. So most of you know her more than me, right? I think she has over 13,000 subscribers now. And then she's the author of multiple books. The one that I know best is the anti-procrastinator book, which she came to Singapore to launch her book as well, and I was very privileged to be there and to meet her in person, right? And then I think she's also very into writing and public speaking, right? So this we'll talk more about her later, but thank you for coming, Veronica. Thank you for joining me. Say hi to everybody.
Hi everyone, and this is the second time that Anthony and I go live. So I always want to collaborate to find a button. It's less intimidating when you go live with someone you know and you trust. So thanks for trusting me.
Okay, thank you. So, for those of you who just joined us or have no idea what's this about, essentially, uh, every week, on Tuesdays of the week, the the contributor, I have 20 of them. The contributor will post a guest post on Solopreneur Code, and then towards the end of the week, which is like today, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, I'll invite the contributor to come on live, and then we'll talk more about the journey. Because in the post, there's only so much we can gather, the feeling, the decision making, the struggles. This is what we'll cover during the live, and I have a few very interesting questions that I would like to ask Veronica. Right, but first, I would like to the story, the start the journey is very interesting. You want to share with us the COVID times?
Sure, and it's a bit of a long story, so I'm gonna make it a bit short and give you the teaser. So I'm originally from Spain, but I live in Hong Kong, and I had been here for many years. I have my family here, work in the corporate world. And then COVID hit. And as you know, we all had all these restrictions and these limitations. And I decided to go to Spain with my two daughters who were very little. They were 3 and 4 at the time, thinking, well, it's been 2 years. I haven't seen my family. I want to go there for 2 weeks. And so it was just me traveling around the world, 24 hours of traveling. So I just packed a little purple suitcase for the three of us. And I kissed my husband goodbye, my dog. And then we left thinking that it was 2 weeks. But because of the regulations, we actually couldn't go back. And I thought it was going to be first a few weeks and perhaps it would be a few months. But we actually ended up locked abroad for 1 year and 4 months. So I didn't go back home. I didn't see my dog. My husband luckily was able to go a little bit in and out. And we started in Spain. And after that, we went to Australia, which is where my husband is from. There wasn't a lot of logic in that decision, really. I just thought, well, Australia is a little bit closer to Hong Kong in the map. So I feel a little bit closer to home, but not a lot of rationale behind it. And the truth is, I tried to look for a job in Australia to make some money. And that job hoping experience, a searching experience, it lasted over 6 months. And I was miserably, it was a miserable failure. Didn't get a job. I only had 3 interviews and I was pretty lonely. I was pretty disappointed as well. And after 6 months, I realized that something had to change. And there was this one day, and it was one particular day in July 2022. I was with my daughters on this beautiful beach called King's Cliff. Only us. There were a few dolphins in the background. It was a bit cold because it was winter in Australia. And I was just so happy and so free and so light in that moment. And I looked at my daughters and I said, actually, I don't have to rely on anyone to show my value. If people don't see my value, if companies don't hire me, it's okay. I have my skills and my experience and my voice, and I'm going to start using it and creating my path. At the time, I had no idea what that meant. I didn't have a business plan, but I think business, they don't really business plan. They start with a vision, they start with a why. And in that moment, my why was I really want to make an impact and build my thing and leave my legacy for my daughters. And so that was a bit over 3 years ago. And since then, I started writing, I started speaking. I launched my newsletter. So it's been like a 3 year journey of solopreneurship, and we'll go into it. But the origin story is really is that moment of realizing I have everything I need to be successful, the same way that every one of you today here has everything that you need to create your own path and to build your own thing.
Yeah. Um, the part that struck me when I first read your story is when you had to stay abroad and 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 start out abroad. I mean, for me, during COVID, I was like stuck in my own home. So and already I feel miserable, right? So I can imagine that you're stuck, but you're not stuck in your own home. You're stuck somewhere else. So that was the part. Oh, if I were you, I would. And then, yeah, you're away from all the. Uh, I mean, you spend most of your part in Australia, right, and not Spain. Yeah. So, and I read you were actually staying with your husband's family. Am I correct?
They live there, but we were actually by ourselves. So I was by
Yeah.
the two kids, looking after them, and that's when I started writing. So they
Yeah.
were there together. But yes, I ended up being there an entire year.
Yeah. And then I can imagine the kids like, when can I see Papa? When can I see? Yeah. Okay. So I have this very interesting question because when you say you started writing, basically when you first started, you say, okay, I want to do something else. You start off with writing, right? And then at the point of time, you were like saying, okay, you just want to so-called find yourself in the to quote the exact words, right? So at what point do you realize that writing can be more than finding yourself and actually become a business? Is it gradual or is it like suddenly just click?
I think everyone's journey with writing is different, and they have like their own aha moments. For me, writing really started as a channel for self-expression. I was by myself, so I really didn't have a lot of people to talk to, especially kids were at kindergarten during the day. And so it started as a channel just for myself. But then at one point, when I started writing in public and I started writing a little bit on LinkedIn, and I also joined Medium, a writer's platform, I realized that some people were starting to relate to what I was sharing. I realized that I could actually make an impact on one person here and one person there. And so it was slowly by putting myself out there, because I think writing always starts as something very private and very intimate. And it takes a lot of courage to open that gate and expose yourself, especially if you're talking about personal topics like I was. And that moment of just someone saying, thank you, this is what I needed to read today. Or, oh my God, I've been through a similar experience. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your story. It makes me feel less lonely. Just those comments from people is saying, hey, your writing has actually helped me in one way or the other. That at scale made me realize how much power there is in writing if we're able to be consistent and to let it come over time.
Mm. You mentioned briefly the word medium. So when you first joined Medium, do you join Medium and Substack together, or you join Medium and then later on to Substack?
No, so I would say that I cheated on Medium with Substack. Started on Medium. This was September 2022. And at the time, I thought it was a great platform because you could really put your writing out there, reach, potentially hundreds, thousands of people. And so I started there on Medium. And I actually quite well, especially for someone who started writing later. I was in my 40s. I didn't have any audience whatsoever. And so in quite a short period of 3 months or so, I grew an audience of 6,000 followers. And I thought, oh, I'm going to become, one of these top writers in Medium. And I had like these big aspirations. And then what happened is that Medium, suddenly they started to go a bit crazy. Like they started to change they were distributing, being very little transparent. They started to just change a lot of things in the back end without really taking writers into consideration. So I kind of lost trust in Medium. And I think when you trust, whether it's people, product, service, platforms, it's very, very hard to recover it. And I started to write less and less, but I didn't have a good option at the time. LinkedIn was not really a competitor for Medium. It was more for my brand in the corporate space. I didn't really find any other alternative. And then I discovered Substack and I fell in love with Substack. And now it's been over 3 years. I love it so much that not only I launched my English publication, but in 2024, at the end of 2024, I also launched the Spanish. And it's been a transition. So now for the past 1 year or 2 years, perhaps, I haven't touched me. I cancel the program. I don't really look into the dashboard. I think that they pay something every now and then. I don't know. But it's really been all hands on Substack.
How do you discover Substack?
So I discovered Substack because I launched this book. I wrote this book, The Lemon Tree Mindset. And this was only 3 months after I started. As you see, it's very, very thin. It's something that I was a bit embarrassed when I received the copy. I'm like, oh, people are going to think that this is hard. So it was very thin. And when I launched it, what I realized is that no one was really buying it. And then I realized that the reason why no one was buying is because no one knew me, because I didn't have an audience, I didn't have a community. I started reading more book publishing. Well, not so much the publishing, but what happens after you publish and how you promote your books. And obviously, you have ads, you have partnerships, but you also, everybody says that you need to have an audience, which is something that I didn't have. And because of my experience at Medium, I realized that that's not what I wanted. I don't want to rely on a platform. I really need to have my thing. And so I started going around with this idea of having my own community through let told me about Substack. I had never heard of it, and I started exploring, and I was like, "Oh, this looks really cool." It's actually more a social newsletter. And so that's how it started, and that's why it has the same name. People think that I published this book after the my public Substack, which is called The Lemon Tree Mindset, but it was the other way around. I launched, and because it wasn't selling, I said, "Okay, now I need community."
Yeah. I remember how I found Substack is I was searching online on Google about solopreneur because I was very into solopreneurship when I first started. And then the first article I read is Maya's article. And then the second or third article is your article, which is I remember you can steal my strategy, but you cannot steal my croissant. You can remember that one. So that was the one that, oh, that's very interesting writer. I want to follow her. So that's how I went into Substack game, and then I was like, I mean, fast forward now, I think it's 2 years plus, and yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying Substack. I think it's one of the better platforms around at the moment. Hopefully they don't change anything, do anything crazy like Medium. All right. So yeah, so for those of you who join us, this is a live session between me and Veronica. I every week I invite one solopreneur on live, and I ask them about their journey to get their first digital dollar, and then I will always dive deeper towards uh, the the following the post that they posted. So if you haven't read Veronica's post, please go to Solopreneur Code and then read about her post. And then, of course, please follow her and subscribe to her newsletter if you haven't. All right, on to the next question. You started by self-publishing on Amazon, and um, and I think writing a book and writing online is very different, right? So how do you, uh, because I can see that now you also move towards public speaking, right? So you start off writing a book, then online writing, then public speaking. So what was the decision making cycle that went through your mind throughout this entire transition?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is that even though these things might sound different, they have the same core skill at its heart, which is writing. And I just discovered that writing is this incredible tool that can help you with online writing, that can help you with digital products, that can help you with public speaking, because my speaking is all writing. That's how I create my keynotes. And so process was the following. I started with a book. And then is when I realized that I wanted to build my own community. And the way to do so was through, in my case, through Substack. And so writing online and sharing posts. But not only that, I started to use the chat, for example, which is very active as well in the right. And so I started to do a lot of these writing on the one hand. But then, and this is back when I was in Australia, starting at the very beginning, my whole strategy was use your voice, send your message. Yeah, I didn't have a community then. I didn't have an audience. And so I said, how can I partner with other people to reach other communities, which is something that I always encourage everyone. Please go on podcasts, do live sessions, write guest posts, invite guest posts. It has really been my strategy to grow. So I really give it away. And so in parallel, writing, I also started to do a lot of speaking. And at first, everything was free. Podcast. I went to summits, for example. Many chambers of commerce, for example, they often look for pro bono speakers, associations, solopreneur networks, and so on. And so I started to speak more really with the purpose of trying to set it and have, because that would help with my writing, that would help with my author brand. And then after I did, I don't know, perhaps it was 60 or 80, I've done a lot of public speaking in different forms.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, and they're all on my website, so you can check it there. And so I realized that that was another skill that could potentially turn into a business, because so they book speakers, whether it's for training, it might be an inspirational speaker, they might have a little offsite, want to invite a keynote speaker to do the opening remarks. And so I started to explore that. That is very, very neat. But I realized that if you put the skills together and package it as a product for the corporate world, then it was a very viable, but also very profitable. Because honestly, I would need to sell, I don't know, maybe 1,000 books to be able to earn what I made with one keynote in the corporate setting. And so that's how it evolved. When people ask me, how do you become a paid speaker? I said, well, first you become a speaker, then you become a public speaker, and you speak as much as you can, so that when people search for you, they actually find you on YouTube and on podcasts and things like that. And then, just like with any product, then you create your offer. What are the services that you want to offer? What is your structure? What is the with participants? So that's how it happened in 3 years, and honestly, something that I love. Yesterday, for example, I gave a masterclass here in Hong Kong for the largest insurance company in Asia called AIA for over 200 people. And it's just incredible to think that they pay you to share your message and your expertise and really have that impact.
What topic were you sharing during the AIA summit?
It was actually because this month, March, is International Women's Day. And so many they want to do events around that. And so the topic that I chose was the power of giving and how
Okay.
give helps create thriving teams. So it's like more about the power of giving. And it was actually quite interesting. I talked about the neuroscience of giving and why it makes you feel so good. Then I talked about Adam Grant's research on
Yeah.
givers that matchers. And so we did an exercise. Are you a giver? Are you a taker? Are you a matcher? Then we went into actually the most successful people at work are actually givers. So how can we all become more of a givers? And then we went into the practical part of what are some practical things that we can do every day to give help, to give time, to give resources, to give tip. So that was the session, and it was something that I built completely by myself. Take from my own experience, from the research that I've done. So it's very empowering to be able to create something by yourself and have this impact. So I do encourage everyone to speak in public, not necessarily to become a public speaker, but to develop that skill, because it's really going to help you in your career, no matter what it is that you do.
Yeah. I coincidentally I recently shared a note about giving about my strategy about giving. So 90% of my content is free and 10% is paid, right? So and then I in the note I was saying that you have to give freely, and the more you give, the more you receive. So so it was so coincidental that you're talking about giving, and then I think this is a message that we want to share, come together, and then to let our audience know as well that I think especially in the current world of sovereignty, AI and stuff like that. Um, if you if you paywall every single post, then you have a problem because your audience are not able to clearly see what you have to offer, and then they are unable to relate to why they should uh, go into a deeper relationship with you by going to paid subscription. So my advice is really when people ask me, oh, how do you get paid subscribe, I say you just give, and just believe in the process, and then focus on it instead of trying to keep thinking of how do I get more paid subscribers, stuff like that. What do you think, Veronica?
So I wanted to make a reference to a very unique case that I have on Substack, and it's my founding member called Charlie Garcia. He's the founder of a publication called Capital Mischief. And November, we had a one-to-one session because he was just starting on Substack and he wasn't seeing a lot of traction. But this man, he has incredible credentials, as in he has advised 6 different presidents. He has a one of the biggest finance magazines in the US. And so we talked about the strategy, and he started to write a lot of posts, a lot of content for free, 5 posts a week, every day. He has a
Oh,
different
bye.
one. Another one is about finance. Another one is the books that I read, for example. And his success has been mind blowing. And I cannot promise these results because they are not my results, but they're his, and the screenshots are there. You can check the post in my publication. So basically, he went from zero, 900,000 US dollars on Substack in annualized revenue, almost 1 million. And there was one sentence, and that's where it goes back to what you're saying, that really struck me. And it said, people were telling me that I was leaving money on the table because I was putting everything for free. And he said, I was actually building the table. And it was so powerful because when you're giving things for free, whether it's live sessions like we do today or in my post or my chat is very often free, you're actually building trust. And trust, it doesn't have a return that you can measure or quantify, but very often people who join my community, my paid community, they might tell you, oh, Veronica, I've been following you for 6 months and I love this article or I love being part of your community. So it is actually this stepping stone into your premium product. So don't think that you are not making any impact or that it's not helping you in terms of you. It's actually help you build that trust. So build your table.
Yeah, that was so interesting because there was one paid subscriber. You know, when people go to paid, they have this snippets that they can add. So in fact, a huge percentage of all my paid subscribers, their comment, the general direction is I had to go to paid because you give so much value. So they were not they didn't go to paid because they want to unlock something. They just feel like they had to just go into paid subscription in my newsletter. That was a very interesting part, right? You mentioned chat 2 times, right? You want to share with us what do you use for chat? What are the
Yes.
strategies? What do you follow a certain content strategy? Please share.
So I have a strategy, but I'm going to be very honest here. And I always say this. I didn't live 15 years of corporate world to have a lot of rules and to have a lot of frameworks. So I say, I don't promise that I'm going to have a chat on Tuesday because maybe on Tuesday I feel like doing something with my husband and I don't feel like that. So I think it's important to say that build a business that really suits your lifestyle. That said, it's important to have some frameworks, right? And some strategy. And for me, what I try to do with the chat is one, use it for community collaboration and really make that my newsletter is not just a one way, but people can come and collaborate. And those of you who are watching today, if you want to join Mindset, a couple of days ago, I did my open collaboration day. And I said, hey, come pitch, yeah, introduce your publication. And I always say, be a host. For example, I'm Anthony. I love interviewing solopreneurs. This is what my publication is like. And so I invite people to collaborate. So that's one of the types of usage that I have for the chat for everyone. And then I have another one weekly that is the premium one, which is much more personalized, it's much more high touch. So it might be something like just an ask me anything on the topics that I have more experience in, which might be public speaking, growing digital businesses, publishing books, Substack. So that's one. Sometimes it might be something very personalized, like, for example, what is the value application? Can you explain in one sentence? For Anthony, it might be I help solopreneurs take their business to the next level. For me, is I help people turn their creativity into their lifestyle. And so if they want personalized feedback on what that pitch, what that value proposition sounds like, then I'll give personalized feedback. Obviously, I can't do that for 13,000 people. So I try to give things that are more premium, that are more high touch, that are more personalized for that chat. And so that's a way that you can use it. But I definitely recommend start only with the free because it's difficult to get people to participate. Very often I have chats that don't have a lot of response and you have to keep going. So the very first thing is just make sure that people start to socialize and normalize that there's a chat that they can participate. So that would be the first step.
Yeah. So for me, I follow a framework. So Monday to Saturday, there's a fixed cadence of topic, and one of my most popular, uh, most popular chat topic is on Thursday. It's called Tweak Thursday. All right. So every Thursday, which is today, and I haven't sent it out. I will send out the chat, and then what this chat does is I allow anyone to post their digital products, Substack publication, posts, anything on inside there, and I will personally review and comment and suggest improvements if there is any. And that is very very popular. Every time I publish it, it can go up to the highest I went up is about 100 over comments, and then I actually read through all 100 over links, and I comment each one of them personally. Right. So it was very fun because the moment I start doing that, and then there are people who just subscribe to my newsletter just so that they can join Tweet Thursday. Right. So yeah, so for those of you who haven't tried or used the chat feature on your publication, do explore. You can, I mean, once you subscribe to Veronica and myself, you can go to our chat. Then you see how we organize and how we come up with the content. And I think and I think that is something very it's not very being very it's very understated, right? The feature on chat, I think is very useful, and I think all of you who are serious in building your Substack, you should try to do something with your chat. If your chat is still empty, in fact, I left my chat quite empty for about 1 year plus. I never do anything about it because I have no idea what to do. When do you start letting um heavily investing your time in chat?
I think in my case, it was maybe after. So, because also it's important to just look a bit at the numbers. Typically, you're only going to have a very small percentage of your overall subscriber base participate for different reasons. One of them is simply the time. If everyone is sleeping, that's why I try to do it in the night, the US, which is morning in Asia Pacific, so that I have that time frame. But Europe is sleeping, so you're always going to miss someone. So that's one issue. And then the other one is typically only a very small percentage of people are going to participate. So probably when you're starting, it makes sense to focus more on having a good strategy for growth, being active on notes, perhaps doing live sessions with others, collaborating. I do think that the chat is a bit more advanced in the sense that it definitely works better when you already have a base. So it's not so much about time, it's about when do you have a base that is big enough so that you can have some real conversation with the members.
Yeah. For those of you who didn't know that your chat actually appears in the feed, and that also creates an opportunity to attract people who follows you but haven't subscribed to you to actually subscribe, because usually we limit our chat to subscribers. So if they might accidentally see your chat in the feed because they follow you, and then because of the topics that you talk about, and then they might really say, "Oh, let me subscribe so that I can join the chat." So I think that's something that those of you here you can think about. Talking about chat, we have quite an active chat today. It is one of the most active chat I've seen in a live session. Usually people are very quiet. They in fact they are talking among themselves. Very good for you. Right. So Harry was like, I think Harry and Brandon is like replying to Monica, SIA Brett. As just now Monica also said SIA is actually Singapore Airlines. So you can check her out. And then thank you. SIA Brett say I got inspired to start my chat because of you, Anthony. Thank you, thank you. And then one thing I do to support my paid subscriber, Brandon says, is by recommendation restacking. Yes, these are some of the strategies that you can give to your paid subscribers. I think I think Veronica has some very interesting way of um, offering support to her founding members and paid subscribers. Is there a strategy you go by?
So I've been changing and evolving as I grew, which I think is healthy because when you're starting and you have a small base of paid subscribers, I think it makes sense to try to offer things that are more high touch, that are more personalized, whether it's, for example, a 30-minute coffee chat, or it could be a personalized. In my case, when I started to offer an auditing service for LinkedIn profiles, because that's one of my biggest platforms. And so I that to offer something that was quite excellent to get that first batch of paid subscribers. So you can think of what is something that you could offer that is seen as more high touch, high value, more personalized to bring this first batch of paid subscribers. Then when I started to grow faster, I stopped that because it wasn't scalable. And so I started to do things more one to many, like webinars, masterclasses, the group chat, for example. So you can see how it's evolving. And then in terms of the founding members, the big extra that I offer is a one-to-one strategy session. And that's the most popular one because a lot of people, they might see a strategy that they know how to become a public speaker, but actually when it comes to they want to have that one-to-one, or some people, they just prefer to have more like this mentorship type of learning journey. So for my founding members, we're the one-to-one that makes the difference. Plus, of course, all the benefits of the paid subscription.
Yeah. So Monica asked, I think she mentioned, can your paid benefits change over time? I think the quick answer is yes. In fact, we should evolve because handling uh, one paid subscriber is very different from handling 100 paid subscribers, right? And then handling one founding member is very different from handling 20 founding members. So I think your strategy, your benefits, your value that you offer at all the three tiers should evolve as you grow. And then example that I give myself, the one that I talk about the Tweak Thursday, um, my plan is when I hit bestseller, which hopefully I can hit this soon, almost a bit to bestseller. I'm thinking of shifting it to paid because then the volume gets higher. Then I realize I'm spending just like you. I realize it's not scalable when it hits a certain threshold, right? So yes, my quick answer and my elaborated answer is really we should evolve as we go along, and then depending on our time commitment, how much we can do. Yes, I think you should just evolve your paid and founding members.
Yeah, I have a specific example. Another thing that I added for my premium members is having guest posts in my publication. So that's a great opportunity. I'm exposed to 11,000 readers. And what I love most about it is that it's not just, oh, they send me the article and I publish. I actually give feedback. Hey, title would work better, or here maybe you can go deeper into this part and give it a bit more meat. So it is a bit of a collaboration and co-creation process, and I've honestly enjoyed a lot. And the great thing is, it's really a win-win. We were talking about giving before. It helps, of course, the guest
Yeah.
have exposure to a bigger network, but very often, because they promote it themselves, people from their community end up also subscribing to mine. So again, collaboration works really well because everybody.
Yes. And for those of you who just joined us, we are just at the topic of collaboration now. And for me, I think collaboration is very, very important when you first start, especially when you first started in Substack. The only way, in fact, the best way to grow is to collaborate, because when you collaborate, you expand your outreach and then you learn from one another. So I think that is very important. So don't be, and the interesting thing about Substack is that even the bigger writers, when you write to them, they will reply, say, okay, let's do it. I think this is so it's so giving in this community, right? Even the bigger writers, so the smaller writers, those less than 100, don't feel don't be afraid. Just DM your whoever you want to collaborate with. Just ask them, yeah, I mean, but of course you have to suggest a topic that actually aligns with the newsletter, of course. But what I'm trying to say is, most of the bigger writers, they are okay to collaborate. They are very open to that, right? Correct. I think Veronica also agree with me that uh, when I first started, uh, I think when I have less than 100 subscribers, David actually offered. David DM me and say, "Hey, you want to write a guest post on my on my newsletter?" So yeah, so I think the ambience here, the giving, the mentality, and uh, the willingness to help one another here is very good. What do you think?
Mm, absolutely. No, I 100% agree. And many people ask me, but how do I collaborate if I'm small, if I have a small audience, or if I just started? My advice is always the same: is don't just think of what's in it for me, because I have received requests of people that I don't know asking me, would you recommend me? Can I do a guest post for you? They don't even subscribe to my publication. They don't know who they are. So it makes it very difficult for someone to want to say yes. And so make it in a way that is actually interesting for the other person, and they can also see it as a win-win. Like 2 days ago in my collaboration chat, one of the persons, she said, oh, I love to do into the corporate world, to do entrepreneurs. This is what I do. Every third day I feature them. She explained it so well, and I went to look at it. And even though her publication was really small, I proactively went out to her and I said, I love the work that you're doing. Can I be one of your guests?
Yeah.
Because she done in a way that was interesting for everyone, that was really a win-win. So that's what I mean by an abundance mindset, and not just thinking, oh, how can I be recommended? How can I gain? How can I get more subscribers? Is how can I help the other person win? And in the process, maybe I'm able to grow as well.
Yeah, so it's so interesting. And then, so guys, don't worry, just go out and collaborate with one another. Um, uh, SIA Brett say, my first collaboration didn't move well. Don't worry, just go on to the next one. The power of collaboration is really very important, and I think everyone should explore that. Okay, on to your story. I think uh there was this part where you, after you launch the book, then you say you got your first 50 sales, and then you also mentioned that probably they are all your friends and relatives, right? So um how do you sell your book uh, initially, even before you go on the Substack?
I have to be very honest. I gently harassed everyone that I close. The closest they were, the bigger the harassment base. Hey, just publish a book. You have to buy. No one is buying. It takes a lot of humility to go to people and say, hey, I'm actually kind of embarrassed. Like I published this book and I really want for people to start reading it. And but especially in my case, I didn't have a community, so I couldn't really go out to anyone else. Of course, harassing people is not a strategy that I am, but when when you're getting started. But then from there, so how do you sell? And the question I think is, how do you sell when you don't particularly like selling? Because I'm not a salesperson. I've never liked the cold outreach, cold calls. It's just not me. Not me. And so what I found works really well is find other ways that lead to the same without having to do massive promotions, without having to send countdown deals, I never ever sent a DM trying to sell something. And I know that is a strategy for some people. It's not my strategy. And it has worked well for me. I've been able to make it to Substack bestseller without sending DMs to have to sell anything. But of course, hope is not a strategy. And so you have to create other ways that help you sell. In my case, the community helps. The live sessions, they work incredibly well to bring subscribers and sometimes even paid subscribers, because there might be someone today who is like, you know what, I'm starting my solopreneur journey and I loved Anthony. I love how he was sharing. I like his style. Or they might like Veronica. And they might say, oh, I'm publishing books. So whatever that might be, but it really helps you create that sense of connection. And so not doing DMs doesn't mean that you don't do all the things. So you can have live sessions. You can use your community. As we were saying before, you're building the table. So your own free content helps with that. Then having systems Panji, works extremely well. And Anthony, you're much better than me on this, but I just wanted to maybe throw you the ball here. For digital products, for example, any type of product, having systems that help you have a lead magnet. That might be a simple PDF, or it might be a short quiz. And then that lead magnet works as a teaser for something else. I don't feel that I'm selling in the sense that I'm still giving value with that product, with that small product, whatever that might be. But that might open the appetite for something else. That might be a course, that might be a cohort, it could be a digital product. So having those systems in place, it kind of made the sales part, which we don't like, it the processes work. I'm pretty happy that you that's on Gumroad.
Yeah. Sorry, I lost you the last part.
I was just throwing you the ball if you want to talk about how to work sales, because I know that you're going to be very humble, but your success on Gumroad, like building this ecosystem where you have lead magnets, free and paid later, you have automated email sequences, you have multiple digital products, is really good. We're not going to go too deep into that,
Yeah.
but can maybe just elaborate a bit.
Yeah. So truth be told, when I first started, I have no idea what works. And trust me, everybody, most of the people, when they first started, they have no idea what works. So the only way to know if something works is just to launch it, right? And um and something I want to emphasize is I I there's this phrase I always believe in, is that success cannot be duplicated. It can be referenced, but it cannot be duplicated. How I exactly do my flow and how Veronica exactly do your flow, you can copy down step by step, but you will not be as successful as either of us. It is like that. Life is like that. Entrepreneurship is like that. Business is like that, right? Environment, circumstances, timing, all the stuff. But the flow for my funnel is very straightforward. There's a lead magnet. Uh, there's a low price, low ticket offer, and there's a medium ticket offer, right? And then the lead magnet is something that I enjoy doing. I I currently have about 30 over lead magnets, and each of the lead magnets leads to one specific product, and then I lead I lead my customer from lead magnet to a specific product through email marketing, and which is what I said inside Gumroad. So Gumroad, I have like multiple workflows: 5-day email, 20-day email, 90-day emails, right? The the trick is, not say the trick, the strategy is to educate your audience, um, give them and allow them to transform. And as they transform, they realize they need something else. And when they need something else, you happen to be the first product, because you have been you have been bugging them about your product since day one. Right. So
So,
this is the overview of how I do my Gumroad. What about yours, Veronica? You also have a Gumroad, and the most interesting thing is you actually have e-learning in your Gumroad.
yes.
How's that work?
So for me, the way that it works, I don't have a lot on Gumroad, but what I have is what I call like mini ecosystems. Meaning, for example, I pick on things here, successes, achievements that I have had throughout my career, and then I turn them into products. For example, when I became a Substack bestseller, particularly, that was a year and a half ago, many people were asking me about Substack. So I was writing about how to grow Substack, but I didn't want to become one of these meta creators of only talking about Substack. And so I said, well, how about a course on Substack, those people who want to go there, and I put it outside. And so that's exactly what I did. I created a course super on how to Substack, hosted it there, have a lead magnet that is a 13-minute tutorial. It's free, by the way, if you want to watch that tutorial. Then that leads to an email sequence. I think 5 want the course is there. So that's one mini ecosystem. Another one is public speaking. Because I do a lot of public speaking, I get a lot of questions. Where do I get started? How do I build an offer? How much should I charge? So I said, hey, people are asking me all these isolated questions. I'm just going to group it. And so I talked about it on stuff I didn't like about public content. And then I very actionable on how to become a paid speaker. So it's more on the strategy, not on the actual paid speaking. And so again, mini ecosystem. I created a very small lead magnet that helps you refine your LinkedIn profile. Because for me, my number one recruitment platform or channel is LinkedIn. You have to have a good speaker profile. So I give 5 tips as the lead magnet, and then that leads into the public speaking course. So just a couple of I don't do a lot, but what I do is I try to make it very strategic so that it doesn't feel something else, but it's more a continuation of the things that I've already talked about.
Yeah. I always say, whenever people ask me about sales funnel, is that the best sales funnel is when your customer are in that and they don't know that they are in the funnel. So that is the best sales funnel. In fact, for those of the 41 of you here, you'll be very amazed to know that I can even tell you that even doing a Substack live is a good lead magnet that you can have. And it's simple to do. You just do a live, and then after that, you just publish it, and then it becomes a lead magnet to your publication.
Sorry, not too sure.
Right. So just do it. All right. I think the only way to know if anything works is to just do it. All right. And then there's something that I want to talk about. When you mentioned that your first dollar signals potential and possibility, but between pressing publish and seeing that the first sale, there's a gap. What goes through your mind in your gap? Because what I'm trying to understand is, I in all my for those of you who follow me throughout the whole project, you realize I will keep emphasizing that there's a difference in the mindset between before you make your first sale and after you make your first sale, right? Before you make your first sale, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of question mark. You don't know whether it works or not. But the moment you make first sale, your mindset there's something tweak because the you start telling yourself, hey, it actually works, right? So what goes on between that first sale and the first sale?
I think uh, a lot of is afterwards.
Veronica, I can't hear you. Yeah, can.
Okay. And I think that what helped me because what is treated when or whether it's being a public and try to not be black or white and not be about what when in terms it's only going to be a win or a failure. On the other hand, if you publish something and you don't have the results that you expect, it's much more helpful to focus on what what are, for example, when I first published this and it didn't have a lot of success at first, I realized that the cover, for example, not professional. I had done it myself. I used Canva, and then I was like, well, that's really a scarcity mindset because I'm not a designer. How about I change the cover? And surprisingly, this book, which I don't actually promote very much, it's still selling 3 years later. But is this mindset, the Kaizen strategy of what are some things that I can do better? For example, when I published the book, again, I started to learn about ads. So I started investing on Amazon ads, Meta ads, and that allowed me to understand how can I use all the tools that are going to help me promote my book. So instead of focusing on the Was it good or was it bad? Did I succeed or did I fail? It's more every time you do something, improve. I do the same with live sessions, for example. The other day, I tried something new, which was just I was in the track and I started to have a live session, very spontaneous. The feedback was good. Hey, that was very different. That was very, very genuine. So I will start doing more of that. I think it's having this mindset of things work and things can be improved.
Yeah. So it's very important that for those of you who have not get your first sale or earn your first digital dollar, I think it's easy to say, but then don't give up. I know it's easy to say, but then really just don't give up and then just keep trying. You can iterate the process. You can enhance the. Could it be the lead magnet problem? Could it be the flow problem? Could it be the digital product problem? It can sometimes be as simple as the copy problem, right? How you write your copy and stuff like that, which I think you can find all sorts of help in Substack, right? So, but beyond all the technical helps, I think the mindset is very important, right? So do not give up and just keep trying, and then you'll see the result. Okay. You mentioned that the writing, uh, you are more of your revenue comes from public speaking now, right? And then tell us some just snippets about how you position your public speaking. I heard that along the chat that you say you use your LinkedIn profile primarily for your public speaking business, and then Substack is more of your books and your online writing. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the way that I use it, and there's no right or wrong, it really depends on your strategy. But for me, because public speaking is really something that targets corporate, my are kind of are very relevant to my courses. So just in it. That's why in that platform, my number one message is I'm a speaker. I'm a speaker on leadership, on cultural agility. That doesn't mean that I only speak about that. I hate niche, by the way. Like I'm like who I am. Like my last post was about doing a race all sweaty on the weekend because that's my whole. But you have a primary message, and I think that's important. And everything that I do try to link back to that message. And so LinkedIn is my strategy for the B. And very often what happens is from LinkedIn, the potential clients, they will visit my website. It's very important for them to see what does the speaker talk about, who are the clients, what are the testimonials. So that's LinkedIn. And then Substack is more my creative work. So there is about growing your digital business, is about being a solopreneur, is the mindset, the strategies. So that's how I divide it. But you can perfectly have a flywheel where your LinkedIn is actually taking followers into your Substack. So you have different ways of doing it.
Yeah, I think what Veronica said is very right. Do understand that there are 1,001 ways to get your first digital dollar. There's also 1,000 ways on how you do your outreach. There are people online who says or just focus on Substack. There are also others who think otherwise. There is no right. There is no wrong. There is only one that works for you. So try it out. The concept is the same. Just try it out. And if you don't try it out, there's no point talking about it or thinking about it. I think so guys out there, please, anything that you can think of, you're saying, oh, will it work? Just do it. The moment you do it, you'll know whether it works or not. All right. So we're reaching the end. It's always a 1 hour live chat. I hope you take some of the lessons that Veronica has shared with us. Last question, Veronica, for those who of them, there are 46 of us here. Uh, for those of them who have not earned their first digital dollar, get their first sale, what's your advice for them at this point of time?
Wow, the advice for someone who hasn't done it. Honestly, do something that regardless of the outcome, you would feel proud of. And I just made this app, not something that I have, but I didn't know that you were going to ask me about this. But there's one book that I have here that is actually my memoir called The Flight Home. And is the story that I shared today, how I was locked abroad during the pandemic, how I started writing, all the uncertainty, all those feelings. And when I published that book, I felt so proud of it. And even if no one would buy that book, I would still be happy and proud and fulfilled that I did it. So I think if you approach any project with that mindset, you're always going to be successful. And I don't mean this in a cheesy way. Like, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I just launched my YouTube channel. I have 100 something subscribers. So very, but it's something that I'm proud of. It's a new skill. It's something that I'm learning. So regardless of just the numbers that you see out there, do something that gives you joy, that fulfills you, because then you're gonna have that motivation to keep going.
Yep. I think, yes, I followed your YouTube the moment you publish it on Notes.
Please,
All right. Yeah. So, thank you everyone, for joining us. For those of you who haven't subscribed to Veronica, which is most of you will know her more than me, please subscribe to her. And then, for more information about the First Digital Dollar project, which extends from January to June this year. June we're going to have a major party. I hope to invite all 20 of you come together, and then we have a live session, in Zoom or Google Meet. Um, Stick around. There are a lot of stories to be shared. There's a lot of journeys and a lot of offers to be shared, and a lot of life experiences to be shared. Any last words to the viewers, Veronica?
no, I think that's it. I want to wish a great day, all the motivation, and now let's make sure that this life is not just theory and a concept, but we actually bring it to life, right? And we go back to writing.
Yes. There are a few books that Veronica mentioned. I'll put it in the post, and then as usual, the post will be sent out within the next 24 hours. But for now, thank you everybody for joining. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Veronica.